Captain Lee Hoon had been staring at the endless void of space for 3 hours straight. The bridge of the UES Iron Wolf hummed with quiet efficiency, its crew performing their routine deep space patrol with practiced ease. The ship was one of humanity's finest destroyers, built tough and armed heavy for the dangers that lurked in the dark corners of the galaxy. Hyun rubbed his tired eyes and took another sip of his bitter coffee. At 42, he had spent half his life in space, patrolling the outer rim, where pirates, smugglers, and worse things prowled the shipping lanes. His weathered face bore the scars of a dozen battles, and his crew respected him for one simple reason: he always brought them home. The bridge was dimly lit, bathed in the blue glow of tactical displays and navigation screens. Communications. Officer Park Mina sat at her station, monitoring the usual chatter of merchant vessels and patrol reports. Navigator Kim Tae tracked their course through the star charts, while Weapons Officer Jang Soo kept watch on the sensor arrays. Everything changed in an instant. Park. Mina's console erupted in activity, warning lights flashing as an incoming signal overrode their standard communications. She pressed her earpiece tighter, her face growing pale as she listened. "Captain, I'm picking up a distress signal long range, wide broadcast. This is ... This is different, sir. Very different." Hyun straightened. In his command chair, his instincts immediately alert. In 20 years of service, he had heard every kind of distress call imaginable. Pirates faking emergencies, merchants crying wolf, even alien vessels in genuine trouble. But something in Park's voice told him this was unlike anything they had encountered before. "Put it through, Park." Full translation protocol. The bridge fell silent as Park's fingers danced across her console. The translation matrix hummed to life, its advanced algorithms working to decode an alien language none of them had ever heard. Static filled the air, then slowly cleared to reveal words that made every human on the bridge hold their breath. The voice was melodic, almost musical, but filled with desperate fear. To any who can hear this message across the void of space: "We are the Zilani of the world, Thera Prime. Our civilization faces complete extinction. The void sickness has taken hold of our planet's core, consuming matter itself at the quantum level. We are a people of peace, devoted to mathematics and the pursuit of knowledge. We have no weapons, no means of escape. Our ships cannot survive the journey to other worlds. We estimate 37 rotations before our world is completely consumed. We have children, families, 4 million souls who have never known war or hatred. Please, if there is any mercy in the galaxy, help us." The message repeated, growing weaker with each transmission. Navigator Kim Tae was already pulling up star charts, his face grim as he traced the signal's origin. "Sir, the signal's coming from the Crimson Nebula sector. Grid reference 7 Alpha 9. That's the dead zone, Captain. No one goes there. The radiation storms alone would fry most ships, and the gravitational anomalies have swallowed entire fleets." Hyun stood slowly, walking to the main view screen where the star charts displayed the notorious Crimson Nebula. It was a swirling mass of superheated gas and cosmic debris, colored blood red by the dying stars within it. Ships that entered the nebula rarely came out, and those that did were usually heavily damaged and barely functional.
"How many ships are in range to receive this signal?"
Haeyeon asked. Communications Officer Park checked her readings. "At least 40 vessels, sir. The Corvani Empire has 3 cruisers in the next sector. The Ethereal Collective has a science fleet nearby. Even the Trade Federation has ships close enough to respond." Hyun waited, knowing what would come next. Within minutes, the responses began filtering in. The Corvani Empire transmitted their regrets, citing insurmountable logistical challenges and risk assessment protocols. The Ethereal Collective acknowledged the signal and promised to convene an emergency council to study the situation and formulate an appropriate response timeline. The Trade Federation's reply was even worse. They questioned whether the Zilani had any valuable resources worth the risk of a rescue mission. One by one, every major power in the galaxy found reasons to avoid the Crimson Nebula. Committee meetings were scheduled. Risk assessments were ordered. Emergency councils would convene in weeks or months, long after the Zilani world had been consumed by whatever cosmic horror was devouring it. Hyan's hands clenched into fists. This was exactly why he had volunteered for Outer Rim patrol duty. Out here, away from the politics and bureaucracy of the inner worlds, decisions were simple.
Ow.
You either helped people or you didn't. You either stood up for what was right or you turned away. He turned to face his crew, seeing his own determination reflected in their faces. These were good people, volunteers, all, who had chosen the dangerous life of deep space patrol because they believed in something bigger than themselves. Engineering, Hyan called out, his voice carrying the weight of absolute command. Prep the jump drives. Plot a course for the Crimson Nebula. Maximum burn. Chief Engineer Lim Hay looked up from his console, a mixture of concern and admiration. In his eyes, "Sir, with respect, that's a suicide run. The Iron Wolf is tough, but the Nebula will test every system we have." "Then we better make sure our systems are up to the challenge," Hyan replied. "Send word to command. Tell them we're responding to a humanitarian crisis. If they want to court-martial me later, they can get in line." His crew exchanged glances, but not one of them hesitated. They knew their captain well enough to recognize that tone in his voice. When Li Heian made a decision, hell itself couldn't stop him. They had followed him through battles with pirate fleets and encounters with hostile alien species. If he said they were going into the Crimson Nebula to save 4 million strangers, then that's exactly what they were going to do. As the Iron Wolf's engines roared to life and the ship changed course toward the deadly nebula, none of them knew. They were about to become part of a legend that would be told throughout the galaxy for generations to come. The Crimson Nebula was living up to its deadly reputation. Captain Li Hun gripped his command chair as the Iron Wolf shuddered through another wave of cosmic radiation. 3 days ago, they had entered this hellish region of space alone. Now, they led a small fleet of human vessels, all racing against time to reach a dying world. The bridge lights flickered as another energy surge hit their shields. Through the viewscreen, Hyan could see the swirling red mists of the nebula stretching endlessly in all directions. Lightning storms of pure energy crackled between massive chunks of stellar debris, while gravitational anomalies twisted space itself into impossible shapes. "Captain, incoming transmission from the Steel Fang," reported Communications Officer Park Mina, her voice strained from monitoring multiple channels simultaneously. "Put Captain Choi through." The gruff voice of Captain Choi Day filled the bridge. "Hyan, my reactor temperature is hitting the red zone. These radiation levels are insane. How much longer can we keep this up?" Before Hyan could answer, another voice joined the channel. Captain Han Sol of the Thunderstrike sounded equally concerned. "My shields are down to 60% efficiency. Whatever's causing these energy storms, it's unlike anything in our databases." Heenan looked at his own ship's status displays. Every system was being pushed beyond normal limits. The Iron Wolf's whole temperature had risen 30 degrees in the past hour alone. Warning lights blinked across multiple consoles as their advanced shielding systems worked overtime to keep the deadly radiation at bay. "We hold course," Hyun said firmly. "Those colony ships behind us can't take much more punishment, but we're almost through the worst of it." Behind the 3 destroyers, the massive colony vessels New Dawn and Rising Phoenix struggled through the cosmic maelstrom. These ships were engineering marvels, each capable of carrying over 1 million people in emergency conditions. SEO Min of the New Dawn was a veteran of the Outer Rim colonies, her ship having transported refugees from 3 different war zones. Captain Yang Jae commanded the Rising Phoenix, a newer vessel with advanced life support systems designed for long-term habitation. "This is New Dawn to Fleet Command," came SEO Min's steady voice. "Hull stress is approaching critical levels, but we're holding together. How are our passengers going to handle this kind of punishment?" "The Zilani are tougher than they look," replied Yang Jae from the Rising Phoenix. "I've been reviewing their biological data from the distress signal. Their species evolved on a world with natural quantum fluctuations. They should survive the journey better than most aliens." Park Mina's console lit up with incoming signals from across the galaxy. She shook her head in disgust as she read through the latest responses to the Zilani distress call. "Captain, we're still monitoring alien chatter about the rescue mission. The Corvani Empire just sent an official statement. They're expressing deep concern for the Zilani situation, cite insurmountable logistical challenges as their reason for not responding. They're also questioning whether their military vessels could survive the nebulous conditions." Hune snorted. The Corvani were one of the galaxy's major military powers, with ships that could glass entire planets. Yet they were afraid of a little radiation and some gravitational anomalies. What about the others? The Ethereal Collective has formed a crisis response committee to study the situation. They estimate it will take them 6 to 8 weeks to reach a decision on whether to authorize a rescue mission. The Vorthan Republic is conducting feasibility studies on evacuation protocols. The Trade Federation is actually debating whether rescue operations fall under their commercial agreements, or if they need to renegotiate their humanitarian aid contracts. Navigator Kim Tae looked up from his instruments, his face pale with exhaustion. "Sir, while they're holding committee meetings, we've got 18 hours left before we reach the Zilani system. But we have to get through the worst radiation storm I've ever seen. Whole temperature readings are already at dangerous levels." The main view screen showed their path ahead, a swirling wall of crimson energy that looked like the mouth of some cosmic beast. Inside that storm, radiation levels spiked to levels that would cook most organic life forms in seconds. The gravitational distortions were so severe that space itself seemed to bend and twist. "Engineering report," Hune called out. "Chief Engineer." Lim Hei's voice crackled through the intercom. "Captain, we're running hot across all systems. Reactor output is at 110% of normal capacity. Shield generators are cycling faster than recommended. If we push much harder, we risk catastrophic failure." "What about the colony ships? They're in worse shape than we are. Those big ships weren't designed for this kind of punishment." SEO is reporting microfractures in her hull plating. "Captain Young's life support systems are working overtime just to keep the radiation out." Despite the danger, none of the human crews had suggested turning back. This was what separated humanity from the other species in the galaxy. When faced with impossible odds, they didn't form committees or debate protocols. They acted. Homeworld's transmissions were growing weaker by the hour. Their final messages painted a picture of a world in its death throes. The quantum plague was accelerating, consuming entire continents in waves of dark energy. But now their messages carried a new note: confusion and fear about the approaching human fleet to Zilani sensors. The human ships appeared as massive energy signatures cutting through space that should have been impassable. Their vessels looked like instruments of war rather than rescue, bristling with weapons and armor designed for the harshest conditions in the galaxy. The Zilani had never encountered a species that built their ships for war and exploration in equal measure. Captain Parkmina said quietly, the latest Zilani transmission. "They're asking if we're coming to conquer what's left of their world. They can't understand why anyone would risk crossing the nebula just to help strangers." Hyun smiled grimly. Soon, the Zilani would learn what it meant when humans decided to help. The galaxy's bureaucrats could hold all the committee meetings they wanted. While they debated and studied and assessed, 4 million innocent people would die unless someone acted. And humans always acted. The heart of the Crimson Nebula was like flying through the belly of a cosmic monster. Captain Lee Hyun gripped his command chair as the Iron Wolf bucked and rolled through waves of energy that should have torn them apart. The bridge was bathed in angry red light from the warning displays, and the constant hum of overworked systems filled the air. "Radiation levels are off the charts," shouted Science Officer Ko Jun from his station. "We're taking in more cosmic particles per second than most ships see in a year." The tactical display showed their small fleet pushing deeper into the maelstrom. Around them, space itself seemed to be going insane. Gravitational anomalies created pockets where time moved differently, where matter behaved in ways that violated every law of physics. Lightning storms of pure energy crackled between floating chunks of dead planets, each bolt carrying enough power to destroy a small moon. Suddenly, alarms screamed across the bridge. "Damage control officer," Eugen's voice cut through the chaos. "Like a knife. Hull breach on deck 7. Emergency bulkheads are sealing. but we've lost 3 compartments to vacuum. Heon watched his damage control board light up like a Christmas tree. The Iron Wolf was taking a beating that would have killed any other ship, but she was built tough. Human engineering had learned hard lessons from centuries of exploring the galaxy's most dangerous places. Their ships were designed to take punishment and keep fighting, sealing it now. Yujin continued, her fingers flying over emergency controls. Hull integrity is holding at 85%. Can take more hits like that, but not many. Behind them, the other ships were faring no better. Captain Choide's voice crackled through the communication system, filled with static from the cosmic interference. Iron Wolf, this is Steel Fang. Lost our forward sensor array to a micrometeorite the size of a baseball. But we're still flying. My engineer says the impact crater is 3 meters wide. Captain Han Sol's Thunderstrike was having its own problems. Multiple system failures across all decks. Life support is compensating for radiation leaks. My crew is working miracles just to keep us in one piece. The massive colony ships were suffering even worse. These vessels were built for transport, not combat, and the nebula was testing every bolt and weld in their construction. Captain Esiomin's voice came through tense with concentration. New Dawn reporting major structural stress. My hull is flexing like a piece of rubber. If we hit another gravity well like that last one, we might break apart. Captain Young Jae from the Rising Phoenix sounded equally strained. Engine efficiency down to 60%. The radiation is interfering with our fusion reactions. Burning fuel twice as fast as normal, just to maintain speed? What should have been certain death for any rescue fleet became merely another obstacle for the humans. Their ships had been forged in the fires of countless battles and explorations. Every human vessel was built with the assumption that it would face the impossible and survive. Redundant systems backed up redundant systems. Emergency protocols had emergency protocols. Navigator Kim Tae hunched over his instruments, trying to make sense of readings that changed every few seconds. Space was so twisted here that their navigation computers couldn't maintain a stable course. He was flying by instinct and experience, using the movement of cosmic debris to guide them. Through the maze of death, Captain, I'm detecting some kind of energy barrier ahead. Kim called out. It's like a wall of pure radiation stretching across our entire path. Through the view screen, they could see it, a shimmering curtain of energy that pulsed with colors that had no names. It was beautiful and terrifying, a natural phenomenon that would have made scientists across the galaxy weep with wonder. It was also potentially lethal. Analysis? Hyun demanded. Science Officer Ko Jen studied his readings, his face pale with concentration. It's a quantum cascade field. It's probably created by the interaction between the nebula's radiation and some kind of exotic matter. Sir, flying through? That thing would be like diving into the heart of a star. Options. We could try to go around it, but that would add days to our journey. The Zilani don't have days. Or we could try to punch through it at maximum power and hope our shields hold. Hyun looked at the energy readings, the damage reports, and the timeline to reach the Zilani system. The math was simple and brutal. They had one choice. All ships, this is Haon. We're going through that barrier at full burn. Divert all available power to forward shields. Emergency teams, 2 stations. This is going to be rough. The fleet accelerated toward the energy wall. As they approached, the readings on every instrument went wild. The barrier was magnificent and terrible, a cosmic phenomenon that stretched for thousands of kilometers in every direction. It pulsed with energy that could have powered entire star systems. The Iron Wolf hit the barrier first. For a moment, the universe went white as pure energy engulfed their ship. Every system screamed in protest. The hull temperature spiked to levels that should have melted their armor. Their shields somehow containing forces that belonged in the core of a sun. One by one, the other ships followed. The Steel Fang emerged with its entire port side, glowing like molten metal. The Thunderstrike's communication array was completely fried, leaving them flying in radio silence. The colony ships groaned and flexed as they pushed through, their massive hulls radiating heat like small stars, but they made it. All 5 ships burst through the energy barrier and into clearer space beyond. Navigator Kim Tae's instruments finally stabilized, and what he saw made his heart race with excitement. "Captain," Kim called out, his voice tight with anticipation. "I'm reading the Zilani system. Distance markers are showing clear. 2 more hours at current speed." Through the bridge viewports, they could finally see their destination. The Zilani homeworld hung in space like a dying jewel, its surface wreathed in unnatural energy that pulsed with sickly colors. Even from this distance, they could see the planet was breaking apart. Massive cracks ran across entire continents, glowing with the same dark energy that was consuming the world from within. The quantum plague was visible to the naked eye, waves of darkness that swept across the planet's surface, erasing everything they touched. Cities, forests, mountains, all disappearing into nothingness as the plague ate reality itself. "My God," whispered Communications Officer Park Mina, "it's really dying. The whole planet is just ... dissolving." Hans stood up, his weathered face set with grim determination. Round him, his crew looked exhausted but ready. They had flown through hell itself to get here. Now they were going to do the impossible: evacuate an entire civilization from a world that was being consumed by cosmic horror. "All ships, this is Captain Lee Hyun." He broadcast to the fleet. "Prepare for immediate combat evacuation procedures. We've got 4 million people to save, and maybe hours to do it. Check your equipment, prep your shuttles, and remember, we didn't come this far to fail now. We're not leaving anyone behind." The fleet began its final approach to the dying world, their ships scarred but unbroken, their crews ready to face whatever came next. Behind them, the Crimson Nebula continued its cosmic dance of destruction. Ahead lay the greatest rescue mission in galactic history. The Zilani world was collapsing faster than their worst predictions. Captain Lee Hoon stood in the shuttle bay of the Iron Wolf, watching his breath fog inside his helmet as he performed final checks on his environmental suit. The bay was filled with controlled chaos, rescue teams loading emergency supplies, addicts preparing alien-compatible medical equipment, and engineers carrying modified atmosphere processors around him, 20 of his best people prepared for what could be the most dangerous first contact in human history. These weren't diplomats or scientists. They were soldiers, engineers, and medics who had volunteered to land on a dying world to save complete strangers. "Listen up," Ian addressed his team, his voice echoing through their helmet communicators. "We're about to meet a species that's never seen humans before. To them, we probably look like armored monsters from their worst nightmares. Our suits are bulky, our ships look like weapons of war, and we're coming from a region of space that's supposed to be impossible to cross." Sergeant Kim Bo, his senior Marine, checked her weapon one last time. "Sir, what if they think we're invaders? What if they panic?" "Then we show them who we really are," Hyun replied. "We're not conquerors. We're rescuers. Our actions will speak louder than our appearance." The shuttle Valiant sat ready in the launch bay, its hull scarred from the journey through the Crimson Nebula, but still spaceworthy. Lieutenant No Yoon ran through her pre-flight checklist with practiced efficiency. She was one of the best pilots in the fleet, with nerves of steel and reflexes that had saved countless lives during dangerous missions. "Captain, atmospheric readings from the planet are getting worse by the minute," reported Science Officer Lee Jun. "The quantum energy is literally eating holes in their atmosphere. Radiation levels on the surface are climbing fast." Through the shuttle's viewports, they could see the Zilani homeworld growing larger as they approached. What should have been a beautiful world was now a cosmic horror show. The planet's surface was covered in spreading webs of dark energy that pulsed like infected wounds. Entire continents were disappearing into nothingness, consumed by the quantum plague that was devouring their reality. "My God," whispered Medic Kong Ara. "How is anything still alive down there?" The shuttle Valiant launched from the Iron Wolf's Bay and immediately began its descent through an atmosphere that should have been instantly lethal. The radiation levels were beyond anything in their experience books. The quantum energy created weird effects, patches of space where gravity worked differently, areas where their instruments detected matter that existed in multiple states simultaneously. Lieutenant No Yoon fought to keep the shuttle stable as they dropped through the chaos. Hull temperature is spiking again. These energy readings are completely insane. It's like flying through the inside of a malfunctioning reactor. Keep us flying, Lieutenant, Hyun said calmly. Human engineering has never let us down before. The shuttle shuddered and bucked as they descended, but it held together. Human ships were built for the impossible, designed by engineers who knew. Their crews would push them beyond all reasonable limits. Every bolt, every circuit, every system was over-engineered for survival. Below them, the Zalani capital city came into view, a magnificent creation of living crystal that seemed to grow from the planet's surface like a beautiful flower. Even this wonder was being consumed. Dark cracks spread through the crystalline structures, and entire sections of the city flickered in and out of existence as the quantum plague advanced. On the surface, the Zalani leadership waited with a mixture of hope and terror. Chancellor Velthara stood at the center of the gathering, her form shimmering with natural light that pulsed in rhythm with her emotions.
Ow!
The Zalani were beings of pure energy given physical form. Creatures of mathematics and light who had never known violence or war. They approach, whispered Advisor Keth Morin, his light flickering with fear. The energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases. These vessels, they were built for destruction. Yet they came when no one else would, Velthara replied, her voice like crystalline music. They crossed the crimson death to reach us. Whatever they are, they chose to help. The shuttle Valiant touched down in the city's central plaza with a hiss of atmospheric equalizers. Steam rose from its superheated hull as the landing systems cycled down. For a moment, nothing happened. The Zalani gathered around the strange craft, their forms pulsing with nervous energy. Then the shuttle's door opened with a mechanical whir. Captain Li Yen emerged first, his bulky environmental suit making him look like some kind of armored giant. The Zalani had never seen anything like him, a creature encased in metal and polymer, moving with purpose and determination. To their eyes, he looked like a warrior from their oldest myths about the dark times before their enlightenment. But then Heian did something that changed everything. He reached up and removed his helmet, revealing his face to the alien atmosphere. The Zalani gasped as they saw him, not a monster, but a being with kind eyes and a face marked by years of protecting others. Despite the radiation that should have killed him instantly, he breathed their poisoned air and smiled. "We're here to help," Heian said simply, his words instantly translated by the universal communicator on his belt. "We're getting you all out." The effect on the Zalani was immediate. Velthara's light blazed brighter as she understood. These strange beings had risked everything to save people they had never met. The human's face showed exhaustion, determination, and something else the Zalani recognized despite their different biology, compassion, you. "You came through the crimson death," Velthara said, her musical voice filled with wonder. "The void that consumes all things." "How is this possible?" "Because no one else would," Heian replied. "And because 4 million lives are worth any risk." Behind him, his rescue teams began emerging from the shuttle. Each human removed their helmet, showing their faces to the dying aliens. Sergeant Kimbo stepped forward with a portable medical scanner, checking the atmosphere for toxins. Engineer Park Dung began setting up communication relays to coordinate with the ships in orbit. The rescue began immediately. Human efficiency, honed by centuries of survival in hostile environments, transformed the chaos of a dying world into an organized evacuation. While Zalani families gathered their most precious belongings, human, engineers worked frantically to modify their ship's life support systems for an entirely different species. "We need to understand their biology quickly," reported Medikong Ara, running scans on volunteer Zalani. "Their energy-based physiology is completely different from anything we've encountered. Our standard life support won't work." "Then we adapt," Hyun said. "We always adapt." Above them, the sky flickered as reality itself became unstable. The quantum plague was accelerating, consuming the planet faster with each passing hour. But for the first time since their world began dying, the Zalani felt something they had almost forgotten. Hope, These strange, armored beings from beyond the death void had crossed impossible distances to save them. Whatever happened next, they were no longer alone. Retrace the evacuation had become a nightmare race against cosmic destruction. Captain Lee Hoon stood on the bridge of the Iron Wolf, watching through the view screen as the Zilani homeworld literally tore itself apart. The quantum plague was no longer spreading. It was exploding outward in waves, consuming entire continents in seconds. Status report. Hoon barked into his communicator. Engineer O'Dana's voice crackled from the colony ship New Dawn, barely audible over the sound of overloaded systems. Captain, we've got a serious problem. We're at maximum capacity with 2 million Zilani aboard, but there are still thousands on the surface. Our life support is running at 130% just to keep everyone alive.
The massive
colony ship was never meant to carry this many people. Its corridors were packed with Zilani families, their energy-based forms glowing softly in the dim, emergency lighting. Children clung to their parents while engineers worked frantically to modify atmospheric processors for alien biology. Then we make room, Hyun replied grimly, his weathered face set with determination. Strip out non-essential systems. Tear out the furniture if you have to. Pack them in the cargo bays, the maintenance tunnels, anywhere there's space. We're not leaving anyone behind. Captain Yang Jae from the Rising Phoenix reported similar problems. My ship is bursting at the seams. We've got Zilani in every available space. My crew is sharing their own quarters with refugee families. But, Captain, the planet's falling apart faster than we can evacuate. Below them, the world convulsed like a living thing in agony. Massive chunks of the planet's crust broke free and dissolved into nothingness. The quantum plague had reached the planet's core, and reality itself was unraveling. The beautiful crystalline cities that had taken millennia to grow disappeared in flashes of dark energy. Lieutenant No Yoon was making her final run to the surface, her shuttle loaded with the last group of Zilani scientists who had refused to leave until their data was secure. Her voice came through tense with concentration as she fought to control her aircraft. Iron Wolf, this is Valiant. The atmospheric storms are getting worse. I can barely see through this energy interference, and my navigation systems are going crazy. Through the chaos, her shuttle bucked and rolled like a leaf in a hurricane. The quantum energy was creating weather patterns that violated every law of physics. Lightning made of pure mathematics crackled across the sky, while gravity wells appeared and disappeared randomly, threatening to crush her small craft. Stay with it, Lieutenant, Yoon called back. You're our best pilot, if anyone can make it. Through this, it's you. In the shuttle's passenger compartment, 12 Zilani scientists clutched their precious data cores, the accumulated knowledge of their entire civilization, compressed into quantum storage devices. These beings of light and mathematics had spent their final hours on their dying world, ensuring that their discoveries would survive even if they didn't. Human pilot, said Chief Scientist Morthan, his energy form flickering with exhaustion. Your people risk everything for strangers. This is ... incomprehensible to us. Why do you do this? No Yoon glanced back at her passengers as she fought the controls. 'Cause it's the right thing to do. Where I come from, we don't leave people behind. Ever. The shuttle burst through the worst of the energy storm and climbed toward the safety of space. Behind them, the Zilani homeworld was entering its final death throes. The planet's rotation was slowing as the quantum plague consumed the forces that held matter together. Soon, there would be nothing left but empty space, where a civilization had thrived for thousands of years. Captain Choide's Steel Fang was stationed at the edge of the planet's atmosphere, using its powerful tractor beams to assist damaged shuttles. His ship's weapons officer had repurposed their targeting systems to track the small craft through the energy chaos. Iron Wolf, I've got 3 shuttles in distress, Choi reported. Their engines are failing from radiation exposure. I'm using my tractor beam to drag them to safety, but it's like pulling them through molten metal. The Steel Fang's massive engines strained as they hauled the damaged shuttles through the cosmic storm. One of the rescue craft had lost its entire propulsion system and was tumbling helplessly through space. Another had a hull breach that was slowly venting atmosphere. But Choi's crew refused to give up, using every trick they knew to save the precious cargo of alien lives. "Almost there," called out Weapons Officer Park Soo, as he operated the tractor beam controls with surgical precision. "2 more minutes, and we'll have them in the hangar bay." As the final shuttle cleared the planet's atmosphere, something extraordinary happened. The Zilani homeworld, consumed beyond saving, simply ceased to exist. There was no explosion, no violent destruction, just a flash of dark light and then empty space where a planet had been. 4 billion years of history, wiped out in an instant by a cosmic plague that consumed reality itself. But floating safely in the void, the human rescue fleet carried every single surviving Zilani, all 3.7 million of them. Not one had been left. Behind, the journey back through the Crimson Nebula was a nightmare of overcrowded ships and failing systems. But they made it. Human engineering and determination had accomplished the impossible. They had evacuated an entire species from certain death. In the months that followed, the Zilani settled on New Terra, a human colony world on the outer rim. The planet had vast open spaces perfect for their energy-based forms, and clean skies unmarked by quantum storms. Human colonists welcomed their new neighbors with the same determination they had shown during the rescue. The cultural exchange that followed changed both species forever. Zilani mathematical knowledge, combined with human engineering skills, led to revolutionary advances in space travel and quantum mechanics. New types of faster-than-light drives were developed, and force field technology advanced by centuries in just a few years. Chancellor Valthera often visited the memorial they built in New Terra's capital city. The simple monument bore an inscription, in both languages: "When the galaxy turned away, humanity answered the call." Below it were the names of every human who had participated in the rescue. From the captains who led the mission to the engineers who had worked themselves to exhaustion, saving alien lives. The story of the Zilani rescue spread throughout civilized space like wildfire. The same alien governments that had refused to help suddenly found themselves reconsidering their opinions of humanity. The savage humans had crossed impossible distances and survived unsurvivable conditions to save complete strangers, asking nothing in return. It changed how the galaxy viewed humanity, but more importantly, it changed how humanity viewed itself. They were not just survivors or warriors or explorers. They were protectors of all life, wherever it might be found in the vast cosmos. When other species faced extinction in the years that followed, they knew who to call. And humanity always answered, no matter how dangerous the journey or how impossible. The odds, because that's what humans did. They helped. The end. Captain Jiwan couldn't believe what he was seeing on his screen. The numbers dancing across his console made no sense at all. His research ship New Sol had been drifting peacefully through the outer rim when they picked up this strange signal. According to every database in the galaxy, humans were just another primitive species that had barely figured out how to leave their home planet. "Captain, you need to see this," Minji called out from her station. Her fingers were shaking as she pointed at the data streaming across her monitors. This transmission isn't just random noise. It's packed with mathematical formulas that our top scientists have been trying to solve for decades. Quan walked over to her workstation, his boots clicking against the metal floor. The ship hummed quietly around them as they traveled through the darkness between stars. "What kind of formulas? Quantum mechanics, sir? Dimensional physics? Energy conversion theories that could revolutionize how we travel through space." Minji's voice was barely a whisper. "Signal understands the universe better than we do." The beacon had appeared 3 days ago, broadcasting on frequencies that most species couldn't even detect. It carried coordinates to a location deep in unexplored space, along with what appeared to be a distress call. But the more they studied it, the more impossible it seemed. "Run it through the translation matrix again," Jiwan ordered. "Maybe we missed something." As Mingi worked, the ship's sensors began picking up something else. Dark shapes were moving at the edge of their detection range, heading toward the nearby Kepler system. Jiwan had never seen anything like them before. The objects were massive. each one the size of a small moon, but they moved with purpose and intelligence. "Sir, I'm getting energy readings from those objects," reported Taeyeon from the sensor station. "They're not natural formations. They're ships." Juwon felt his blood turn cold. "How many?" "At least 50, sir. Maybe more. They're moving in formation toward Kepler 7, the colony world." The Kepler system was home to nearly 2 million peaceful settlers. They had no military defenses, no way to protect themselves from whatever was coming their way. Guan grabbed the communication controls and tried to reach the colony, but static filled the channels. "Captain," Minji's voice cracked with terror. "Act! Look at the screen." The main display showed the colony world of Kepler 7 in real time. The dark ships had reached the planet and were surrounding it like hungry predators. Down from the vessels, but these weren't ordinary weapons. Wherever the beams touched, everything simply disappeared. Buildings, forests, even the oceans began to vanish as if they were being consumed by invisible mouths. "What are those things?" Taeyeon whispered. Ji-won watched in horror as the planet's surface was stripped away, layer by layer. The attackers weren't just destroying the world, they were eating it. Consuming every atom, every molecule, leaving nothing behind but empty space. "They're called devourers," said Dr. Seungmin, the ship's xenobiologist. He had been studying the ancient texts in the ship's database. "I found references to them in some of the oldest galactic records. They're machines, but not like anything we've ever built. They consume matter and energy to fuel themselves. Entire civilizations have been wiped out by these things. How do we stop them?" Juwon asked. "We don't," Seungmin replied grimly. "According to the records, nothing can stop them. They've been dormant for thousands of years, but now they're awake and hungry." Guan stared at the human distress beacon, still playing on his screen. The coordinates, the advanced mathematics, the impossible technology, it all pointed to one conclusion. Maybe humans weren't as primitive as everyone thought. Maybe they knew something about these devourers that the rest of the galaxy didn't. "Compose a response to that human signal," he ordered. "Tell them about the devourers. Tell them what we've seen. If they're as advanced as this beacon suggests, they might be our only hope." "Sir, the Galactic Council forbids contact with primitive species," Taeyeon protested. "If we send that message, we could face court-martial." Guan looked at the empty space where Kepler 7 used to be. 2 million lives gone in minutes. "The Galactic Council isn't here, Lieutenant. Those things are heading for more populated systems. If we don't try everything, we'll all end up like Kepler 7. Minji's hands flew over her controls as she prepared the transmission. "Message ready, sir? Should I include our sensor data?" "Everything," Guan said. "Send them everything we have. If humans really are what they claim to be, they'll know what to do with it." The message shot across space at faster than light speed, carrying with it the desperate hope of a galaxy under attack. As it traveled toward the coordinates in the human beacon, Giwan could only pray that whoever received it would have the power to stop the unstoppable. The Athnute soul continued its lonely vigil in space, watching as more dark shapes emerged from the void, their hunger endless and their purpose clear. The galaxy's greatest nightmare had awakened, and only the most unlikely heroes might be able to save them all. The alarm pierced through the silence of the Iron Phoenix like a knife. Admiral Hyunwoo had been expecting this call for decades, but it still made his heart race. Deep in the shadow of a dying star, where no galactic patrol would ever think to look, humanity's most deadly secret floated in the darkness. "Admiral, priority transmission coming in," called out Communications Officer Jinwoo. His voice was steady, but Hyunwoo could hear the tension underneath. It's from the Outer Rim. "Alien vessel requesting immediate assistance." Hyunwoo moved to the main console, his weathered hands gripping the metal rail. The bridge around him was nothing like the clean, bright ships the galaxy thought humans used. This was a war machine, built for one purpose only. Red lights bathed everything in an ominous glow, and the walls were lined with weapons that could crack planets in half. "Put it through," he ordered. The message played, and Hyunwoo's worst nightmare became reality. The alien captain's panicked voice described the attack on Kepler 7. It's the dark ships that consumed everything in their path, the helpless colony that simply vanished. But it was the sensor data that made Hyenwoo's blood run cold. Commander Neon stepped up beside him, her scarred face reflecting the red battle lights. 3 long scars ran down the left side of her face, souvenirs from humanity's last encounter with these monsters. It's them, isn't it? How long since the last sighting? She asked, though they both already knew the answer. 300 years? Hyenwoo replied, his voice heavy with the weight of history. I hoped they'd stay sleeping forever. Nehan's hand moved instinctively to the plasma rifle at her side. My grandfather fought them at the Battle of Titan's Edge, said it was like fighting death itself. Hyenwoo activated the ship's internal communication system. His voice echoed through every corridor, every battle station, every hidden compartment of the massive vessel. All hands. This is Admiral Hyenwoo. Authorization Crimson Dawn is now in effect. The enemy has returned. The effect was immediate. Throughout the ship, crew members who had been waiting their entire lives for this moment sprang into action. These weren't ordinary sailors. They were the descendants of humanity's greatest warriors. Trained from birth to fight enemies that other species couldn't even imagine. Assemble the Ghost Fleet, Hyenwoo commanded. Send the wake-up call to all units. Lieutenant Dongyun's station came alive with activity. His fingers danced across holographic controls, sending coded bursts of energy across the galaxy. These weren't normal radio signals. They used quantum entanglement to reach their targets instantly. Sent to Battle Group Omega, hidden in the Crab Nebula, Dongyun reported. Response confirmed. Admiral Ji-hoon acknowledges and is bringing his fleet online. One by one, reports came flooding in. Ships that had been drifting silent and invisible for decades suddenly roared to life. The Death Shadow emerged from inside a hollow asteroid. The Void Hunter uncloaked from behind a gas giant's rings. Dozens of vessels, each one a masterpiece of destruction, began their journey toward the coordinates. What's the status on the experimental ships? Hyenwoo asked. The reality cutter is charging its dimensional drives, reported Chief Engineer Sujin from her station deep in the ship's belly. The Time Walker is synchronizing its temporal engines. Both ships will be ready for combat in 6 hours. These weren't the simple metal ships that the galaxy thought humans built. Each vessel was powered by technology that humanity had torn from the wreckage of defeated enemies. Energy cores that burned hotter than stars, weapons that could tear holes in space itself, shields that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Commander Nain pulled up the tactical display, showing the positions of all human forces throughout the galaxy. We have 47 capital ships responding, plus support fleets. That's more firepower than most species have ever seen in one place. It won't be enough, Hyenwoo said grimly. Last time, we barely survived with twice that number. These things have been sleeping and growing stronger, and we'll make every shot count, Neon replied. Just like we always have.